soon as,
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, let's reconvene the meeting after the executive session. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda and approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, anybody read the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of meetings number 424 and 524 of the water board.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public comment. I understand we have Doug Jones online. Doug, are you there?
I am. I'm get
There you
myself
go.
turned on here. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board. Just a very brief update on where we are with the Lost Valley project. The board wanted me to bring my gas can and show you that we had a full can, but it stinks up my office. So we have sold all of the space. We have collected all of the money. We have submitted our paperwork to Amy, who probably has already shared that with you maybe yesterday. She needed a couple more details and we sent her in the last day or two. So we are well on our way. We have signed our second task order with our EIS consultant. And we've had 3 meetings with the Forest Service, Zoom meetings. And they have verbally assured us they're going to give us a permit to do the squirrel study here in the next few days when the squirrels are active. So we will start to do 3 pieces, the cultural resources, the threatened species, and the biological study, which is the wetlands and soils and those kinds of things, starting just within days. So we think we're off and running. We'll have that data collected now in the spring while the squirrels are active, the grass and stuff is green, and write up the reports over the winter. We've filed the necessary paperwork with the Forest Service. We don't have it back from them, but they are in the process of going through our SF 299. And they haven't come back and said they needed anything additional at this point. So, Mr. Chairman, just an update, a good report that we are well on our way with this project. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but just wanted you and the board to know that we're well started.
Okay, that's all good news. Board members, any questions for Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chair.
Go on.
Mr. Jones, did you collect amount equal to the amount that the water board authorized? Did you get the complete match to what we authorized for the studies, for the pre-construction work?
Mr. Chairman, Joanne, yes, we did. We sold every share that we needed to sell. We came up with our match completely and have submitted the bank statements, whatever, to Amy to let her start the paperwork for the grant that the board approved for us.
Thank you. Good
Okay.
news.
All right. Okay, thank you for that very good report.
Thank you.
Okay, in the audience, John Williams, you want to give us an update?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, Director Weaver. My name is John Williams with the Bonneville Fire Administration. I'd like to give you guys somewhat of a brief update. Haven't briefed you in a while. A lot of things are going on in our industry and of course the impacts to water. But let me just go over a few things. I just want to recap the 1214 agreement. That's the Biden-Harris administration who announced a 10-year partnership with the tribes and states to restore wild sand and expand clean energy production, increase resilience, and provide energy stability in the Columbia River Basin. Our administrator, John Harrison, said that in this agreement, BPA sought to provide our ratepayers operational certainty, reliability while avoiding costly, unpredictable litigation in support of our mission to provide a reliable, affordable power supply to the Pacific Northwest. And with Idaho specifically, the water pipeline. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services will have access up to $200 million in capital funds for upgrades to the Lower Snake Comp program hatcheries. The Clearwater pipeline has been part of the desired upgrades proposed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services for many years, and the state of Idaho estimates that tens of thousands of additional adult salmon would result from the additional capacity with this pipeline. I would note that in this agreement, EPA's commitment is separate from the federal commitment that includes the Department of Energy, Department of Interior, Corps of Engineers, and other federal agencies.
So Sharon, John, is BPA has agreed to fund the entire pipeline for the factory at Georgia? Is that what you said? Or
We're providing funds to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services under the Lower Snake Comp Plan, in which they can utilize this funding for the pipeline.
okay, and Sharon.
Yeah.
So one of the things that the state has approached the water board about is funding. So I'm just trying to understand. Is the funding that EPA has made available to wildlife sufficient for them to fund the entire pipeline, or do you think there still would need to ask what provided?
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Parker, that is something that's being determined between the state of Idaho, being the lead, for this is the Power Council members. Brian.
Just
Mr.
to
Brian.
help you out a little bit,
Yeah.
John, what I know is I think it's unclear at this time whether that fund is adequate to build the pipeline or whether there'll have to be additional funding to complete the pipeline. And we're trying to learn more about that, but today I don't think we know for certain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's where I was going to get to, because the stakeholders, the parties are working on that. We're just providing the fund. We're stepping back from being any part of the decision making in terms of that.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, John.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because I think that's important.
Yeah.
The second, the BPA is preparing for the summer. Heat wave could trigger energy shortfalls due to high demand. The Northwest is expected to have sufficient resources to meet peak hour demands. Also, we have released an updated wildfire mitigation plan. As you know, over the past decade, wildfire seasons become more severe and lengthier. The improvements that Bonville has made to this year's plan strengthens our efforts to prevent wildfires, limit the impact they cause to our assets and system, and help us to better coordinate with customers during these challenging events. Two more items, and I'll be finished, Mr. Chairman. We know this slide here. Provider of Choice Initiative. You may recall a few years ago, I mentioned that Bonville started this initiative to look at post 2028 power sales contracts that expires in 2028. Over the past 5 years, we've worked with our customers and constituents. And we've come up and we have released a provider of choice policy. This document captures BPA's position on policies, products, and services that will offer utility customers in long-term wholesale electric power contracts beginning in 2028. We've seen so much change in our region and in the electric industry since our current wholesale power contracts was put in place back in 2011, such as the energy and balance markets and the continuation of advancing of the markets in our region. So we're hoping that the poly sets a course for 2 more decades of clean energy consumption and economic prosperity for communities served by consumer-owned utilities in the region. So this, the 2028 also corresponds with the end of our current residential exchange program contract, which is actually the settlement. What you should know that the residential exchange program is part of the 1980 Power Act. So that means it's part of law. So we're going to have to do something with that post 2028. Under the 2012 settlements for fiscal year 2028, Bonneville is going to provide $286 million. As I mentioned, it expires in 2028. So moving forward, Bonneville held its last public workshop back in January to share updated benefits analysis with updated inputs. And these inputs came from investor-owned utilities as well as consumer-owned utilities. Unfortunately, it showed lower benefits. And in a nutshell, we would like to see the investor-owned utilities, the consumer-owned utilities reach another settlement like we did back in 2012. They've been trying to work on that. Unfortunately, there's a couple of things that's hanging that up. One is the environmental attributes. The investor-owned utilities would like to see or obtain carbon credits. As you know, the state of Washington and Oregon passed legislation in terms of carbon credits. And they're basing this on the 1980 Power Act. The consumer-owned utilities are rejecting, they're not supporting that. So that's one of the hangups. The other hangup is that I mentioned that there will be a reduced benefit based on our analysis, the inputs, and that's about $34 million. So obviously the investor-owned utilities are saying we can't agree with going in that direction. So what's Bonneville's position? Well, we've communicated that we would like to give the party space to find common ground to drive these settlements. To that end, Bonneville's maintained a neutral position on the parties' respective legal and policy arguments, and even open opportunities for them to try to reach a settlement. If the settlement does not gain traction by summer of 2024, we're at the beginning of the summer, EPA would need to pivot away from supporting settlement efforts to developing a formal position on the outstanding issues regarding the residential exchange program. EPA plans to finalize the residential exchange program no later than December of 2025. This has quite a bit of impact because investor-owned utilities, particularly in Idaho, you look at Idaho Power and southeast area, we're looking at Rocky Mountain. They provide that straight benefit to agriculture, irrigators, small farmers, as well as residential. Excuse me. Up in the north, Vista provides benefits from this program as well. So this is something that I would try to make sure that you are kept abreast of what's going on.
Okay, John.
Mr. Chair. John, what's an example of a consumer-owned utility? So this is an investor-owned utility, correct?
Yes,
So can you give us a name of
it'll
it?
be, Mr. Chairman, Board Member Cole-Hansen, it'll be like the co-ops, all the co-ops, the municipalities, City of Idaho Falls,
Okay, like Clearwater Power,
Clearwater Power, yes, Bonneville's preference customers.
okay.
Any more questions on the residential change program?
I think we're good.
Okay. Last, something you guys really know a lot of, but as you probably know, Bonneville has a weather staff that monitors water conditions in the Columbia Basin that includes the Snake River. So 2 questions. Was Canada water below normal? Was US Columbia below normal? And the answer is yes. The water supply forecast is well below average for 2024. Current forecast is about 80% of normal at the international border. Parts of Canada and portions of the Columbia Basin have had their worst snowpack since the drought of 2001. What about the Snake River? Was it above average? Our weather forecast says, well, that's complicated. For the entire Snake Basin, water supplies are actually below average, 80%, 84% of the 2024 water year at low granite. However, the forecast of Browning includes the middle and upper Snake is at 93% of average. And above American Falls, upper Snake, as you know, is at 101% of average. So it appears that as you move north, it's drier. But as you move southeast to the basin, got quite a bit more water. One last thing to mention is that the snow melt has been orderly and gradual. So it just didn't run off all at once. So it's better for us to manage the system. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments. I stand for any questions.
Any additional questions for John? Okay, thank you, John. Appreciate you traveling into the state to meet with us.
Thank you for allowing me to give you an EPA update. Thanks.
Okay, next up, we have a financial report. Neely?
I'll take her.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
have
Chairman.
something you need to read.
Okay.
I joined.
As of March 31st, 2024, the board's available and committed balances are as follows. In the secondary aquifer fund, the board has a cash balance of roughly 38.4 million and a committed earmark but not dispersed balance of roughly 29.5 and an uncommitted balance of roughly 8.9 million. In the revolving development account, there's a cash balance of 35.8 million. A committed balance of 32.9 million, loan principal outstanding of roughly 18.8 million, and an uncommitted balance of roughly 2.9 million. In the water management account, the board has a cash balance of roughly 290 million. Total obligated funds of approximately 183 million, and unobligated funds of roughly 107 million. Taken together, the board's 3 accounts have a total committed earmark obligated but not dispersed balance of 364,548,216. Total loan principal outstanding of 18,864,804, and a total uncommitted unobligated balance of 118,866,195. Moving down to the ARPA appropriations and the ARPA money. You can see here at the top, the appropriations we've received per House Bill 769 of 100 million. And then per Senate Bill 1181 in 2023, we received about 25 million. And then in 2024, you can see the additional 25 million doesn't come quite through at 25 million, but taken together, it's about 50 million. And so the total received to date is $150,043. And there is an asterisk here. I guess I'll jump to that right now. We anticipate ARPA appropriation in 2025 of an additional 50 million to be received on or shortly after July 1, 2024. Then we anticipate an additional 50 million for fiscal year 2026 to be received on or shortly after July 1, 2025. Taken together, these appropriations total that full 250 million. Then back here to total expended. That is 82,234,932. Then we have an obligated but not yet expended of roughly 78 million. And then a total obligated is the $160,268,047. And then down here is the obligated, but the appropriation has not been received yet, and that's $10,268,000. And with that, I would stand for any questions on the financial report.
Any questions for Neely? Okay, I think we're good. Next item, secondary office for planning management implementation fund, is that Neely Simone?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You'll be asked to, in just a moment, consider a resolution for the proposed FY 2025 secondary aquifer fund budget. I just would like to remind you that on May 13th, the Finance Committee discussed that the secondary aquifer planning management and implementation fund budget for 2025 and recommended that the board consider the attached budget for adoption. So I have prepared a resolution here. I'll just jump to the budget real quick. See here the estimated carryover from FY 2024, and then the general fund of 5 million, the cigarette tax 5 million, and then the estimated interest 14,750,000. And then at the bottom, you can see here that it's for a grand total of 13,156,150. And then you would have reserved for work in other aquifers of roughly 1.6 million. And I just would highlight that some of these items have asterisks. Those are items that would have to be brought back before you to pass an additional resolution to authorize the funding. So with that, I stand for any questions on this budget, and I'd be happy to jump to the resolution if you're ready for that.
any questions for Neely? Okay, this budget was thoroughly vetted through the finance committee, so I think we're probably ready to move on to the resolution.
Like I said, it's a fairly lengthy resolution, a lot of history in there. The relevant information starts on line 66. Again, mentioning that the finance committee recommended approval. And then the now therefore be it resolved that the board adopts this budget. Again, few items here based on if the amount may be, the budget may be adjusted if necessary based on the actual amount of cigarette tax received. Expenditures for ESPA recharge may proceed with no further approvals. Expenditures for monitoring in the Treasure Valley, Big Lost groundwater model, hydrologic studies, monitoring in the Port Miff, Raft River, Mid Snake, and then a statewide surface water and aquifer monitoring, new monitoring wells and instrumentation for eastbound data gaps. Lemhi, Palouse, and Bear River water sustainability projects. Then the work to support the Wood River Basin, professional assistance to secure federal funding and administrative expenses can all proceed with no further approvals. However, the board shall be kept apprised. Expenditures for operation and maintenance for cooperative cloud seeding program may proceed with no further approvals. However, the board shall be kept apprised. And again, you can modify this budget at any time through passage of a resolution. That would stand for your consideration.
Okay, any questions on the resolution?
Chairman,
Yes.
I would move that we adopt the resolution for the budget.
Yeah. All right, is there a second? Been moved and seconded, any discussion? There being none, we'll proceed to vote. Do we have a roll call, Jennifer?
Mr. Barker.
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Aye.
Mr. McMahon.
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
And Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next item, water management account.
Cynthia.
Okay.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Just following on the discussion about the board's finances today. I think as you all are aware, the board has developed spending plans to direct funding appropriated to the for regional water sustainability projects and grants and loans. And those projects are supported with state general funds, ARPA funds, so the American Rescue Act plan funds, as Neil described, and some other sources that are collected by the project sponsors. And since 2019, the Idaho legislature has appropriated over $300 million to the board's water management account and has also set aside approximately $250 million of the state's ARPA funding for use by the board to support board-approved projects. Now, of those funds appropriated to the water management account, the board has obligated approximately $169 million for regional water sustainability projects. They've awarded, or you all have awarded, over $68.7 million for aging infrastructure grants. And you've committed approximately $20.8 million for loans. The board has several, or you've also recognized a number of other projects that are highlighted on the regional priority list, but are not necessarily awarded specific amounts of funding towards those projects yet. So for the anticipated ARPA funding, the board developed a spending plan for over $238 million, and you've obligated $160 million. Federal guidance, I think as you're all aware, but it's worth discussing today, requires that the funds are obligated and under contract by the end of this calendar year, so 2024. And the funds must be expended prior to December 31st, 2026. As Neely mentioned, the Finance Committee met on May 13th to review the spending plans for both the water management account and ARPA funding. There are a number of projects that are currently approved for ARPA funding that require either updated costs or some clarification of the contract timing and spending schedules. And one example of that is, of course, the Anderson Ranch Dam raids, for which the board has set aside $125 million at this point, and just over $72 million has been actually dispersed to reclamation. But we are waiting on some updated costs to allow the board to finalize its allocation of funding from ARPA. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes during an update from reclamation. But that's an example of some costs that we expect to receive in the next couple of weeks. And given that project and some details about some of the other projects in terms of how much money can officially be committed under contract in the near term, staff is recommending that the Finance Committee reconvene in June to review those spending plans again, based on any updated costs and information staff can acquire. And the intent of that meeting will be to obligate all of the anticipated ARPA funds to meet those federal spending guidelines, and also to be able to report those commitments to DFM and others within the state who are tracking ARPA funding. So since your March board meeting, the board has also received 2 new ARPA funding requests for consideration, and those 2 requests were included in your meeting materials. Those are both for projects that are currently on the board's regional water sustainability projects list. And one of those projects was submitted. The project sponsor is the Boise Board of Control. That is for the New York Canal Rehabilitation or Lining Project. The board has already authorized expenditure of up to $25 million for that project. But the most recent request would be to ask the board to consider allocating additional funds up to potentially an additional $50 million to complete the project based on increased construction bid estimates. And that project, I think, as you've heard in the past, has been reviewed by the Attorney General's office and others, and has been determined to be eligible for ARPA funding. The second request was submitted by the Lewiston Orchards Irrigation District, or Lloyd, for a project related to the Lewiston Orchards Exchange Project, which would divert water from the Clearwater River to provide an alternate water supply to the district. And that request is for up to $25 million of the available ARPA funding. That project is currently under review by the Attorney General's office, again, to verify ARPA eligibility and also what the contracting terms would look like to try to disperse that ARPA funding within the guidelines that we've discussed. The board has already approved a $1.2 million expenditures to the project sponsor from the water management account to complete some engineering design work. So we do not have representatives from either of those groups here today to speak to the board, but I propose that we bring those entities together to address any questions at the upcoming finance committee meeting. I'm certainly willing to take any questions today, and we can continue to give you reports prior to that meeting as far as the review of those proposals and the project eligibility. With that, I'll stand for questions, Chairman.
Any questions for Cynthia?
Mr. Chairman, Cynthia, so on the regional sustainability, we have some geographic implications also, no more than 50%, I think it is, within one of the 4 districts. Or am I off on that? It's not the, it's not on regional.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make sure that Mr. Miller verifies this, but I don't think that applies to the regional sustainability list, but does apply to the grant programs.
So ARPA funding though doesn't have to be geographically distributed at all. It's just qualifying projects as determined by the AG's office.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Olmstead.
Yeah, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next up, aging infrastructure grant criteria update, Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, you'll be asked to consider a resolution to adopt the aging infrastructure criteria. This is just a simple update. Staff did discuss this with the finance committee on May 13th. And it was recommended that the attached criteria be adopted by the full board. And with that, I would stand for any questions. The criteria is attached and there is a resolution for your consideration.
Any questions on the edits to the criteria? Okay, anything in particular in the resolution we need to highlight?
No, I think it's fairly straightforward. You can just adopt the updated criteria.
Okay. I entertain a motion to adopt.
I'm going to move to include this resolution.
Okay,
As the second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recorded as abstaining.
Okay.
City of Twin Falls.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Put that in the record. Okay, next up, Anderson Ranch dam raise update.
Yes.
Cynthia, you're gonna leave that up on that?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I think we have Brian Horsborough on joining us today. And Brian, I'll go ahead and just turn it right over to you for an update to the board. And I think as we just discussed, they're of course interested in tracking the progress on design work, cost estimating, and the timing associated with that as well.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. Could I do a sound check? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I, as always, appreciate the opportunity to brief you today. Again, as Cynthia mentioned, my name is Brian Horsborough. I'm the Deputy Area Manager for Reclamation Snake River Area Office in Boise. Also joined by Chris Keith, our Senior Project Manager for the dam raise. He's on the call today, and then we have any technical questions. Before I provide my updates,
Brian, sorry to interrupt you. You're coming in a little bit fuzzy, so maybe getting closer to the mic would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, is this any better, Cynthia?
Yeah.
Yeah, just if I backpack as I do this, and if I need to repeat.
That's not good. I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me any better?
Yeah, your voice is pretty light, Brian.
Okay, let me try something. Yeah, I'm,
Brian,
yes.
hi, Mr. Chairman, real quick here. So
Yeah.
on the audio on the bottom left hand of your screen, there should be a little pop-up arrow. Click on that and see if you can switch to a different microphone. You might be using something different than your laptop.
Yeah, can you hear me any better now?
There we go. Yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
Chris.
Chris has audio visual skills as well.
He does.
Well, like I mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I have Chris Keith on here for any technical questions, so I appreciate that, Chris.
Yeah, you
Thank
bet.
you. All right, well, I won't start over, but I will pick up where I left off. I did want to say that before I provide my update on the design status, I do have a quick announcement that some folks in the room may already be aware of, and that is that Lainey Paquin, our current area manager and the reclamation project sponsor for the dam raise, has officially accepted the position as a deputy regional director with our California Great Basin region in Sacramento. As you know, she's currently detailed into the position, so in essence, she just won't return to the area office. And we will certainly miss Lainey tremendously. The good news is that, reclamation is committed to this project, so I will continue to serve as the reclamation project sponsor for the dam raise as we work to fill that area manager position. And then once the area manager position is filled, we'll decide how to best proceed with the project sponsor role. But I did want to point out that unfortunately we are losing Lainey from both the area office and this project. So I'd like to.
Good for Lainey, not so, we'll miss her, but you'll do just fine.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Chairman. It's a great opportunity for her. So moving on to the update, I'd like to focus my update this morning on the status of reclamation's design work, as Cynthia mentioned. With respect to the dam raise, the 60% design drawings are expected to be delivered in late May. The analysis and the complexity of the designs have taken some extra time that we did not originally anticipate. But as I think I reported last time, it's very important that we get these designs right. And so I'm comfortable with the pace that they are currently at. We're not too far behind. The delays in getting the 60% design complete does push out further design activities and milestones just a little. Primarily what I'm referring to there are activities to complete the 90% and eventually the 100% designs. As of right now, the new schedule shows that we can expect the 90% designs later this year and then the 100% designs in early spring of 2025. And so that's about 3 to 4 months longer than we had originally anticipated. So not terribly bad in the big scheme of the complexity of this design. Let's see, moving on to the reservoir rim projects. We completed the 60% design milestone back in January, and that was slightly ahead of schedule. And since then, the team has finished and continues to work on several key items. They've already started to do some design refinements and calculations for the 90% design. The constructability review report has been finalized and shared among the designers, and that's helpful because they're using it to begin to develop a more detailed construction schedule estimate. And then lastly, they are nearing completion of the geology report for the previously conducted geotech field explorations that they completed a few months ago. I should also mention, with respect to the rim projects, we remain very active in coordinating with the Forest Service to ensure that they're informed and providing input on the reservoir rim project site details. Let's see, one last note on the rim projects. We have re-baselined the design milestones to better align with the dam raise milestones. And this is helpful because it will help keep both scopes of work trending on parallel paths. So overall, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, the plan is to provide a more detailed design summary, total project cost estimate, and a project estimate, or project schedule estimate as soon as possible. It is worth noting that we have received the dam raise 60% design cost estimate from our technical services center. I know that's something that you're anxiously awaiting. Unfortunately, as of today, I'm not able to share that with the board because we have not been able to vet it through our regional director. We do have a briefing scheduled for her on June 7th. And we will, pending that briefing, I don't expect any issues with that briefing, but pending that briefing, we will share the cost estimate with the board shortly thereafter. As I know, as Cynthia just mentioned, you've been anxiously awaiting that cost estimate for budgeting purposes. And then lastly, I'd like to say thank you for working with us to prepare and execute the modification to the MOA that we have in place for when we were conducting the feasibility study. If you'll recall, that MOA covers the project's environmental compliance related work. And so with that update, we were able to extend the MOA by 2 years. And that will certainly get us through completion of environmental compliance and a ROD. And then the update also provided reclamation with additional funding that will be applied to the upcoming environmental compliance work that I just referenced. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will conclude and take any questions that you or the board may have.
Okay, any questions for Brian? I think we're good. You're well aware, we're anxious to get the revised cost estimate. Hopefully the magnitude of change in cost will not be as great as it was from feasibility study to 30%.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. What?
I was just gonna ask Brian if he had any hints about the answer to that question from the chairman. But you don't have to, Brian.
Yeah, Mr. Barker, Mr. Chairman, I'm hesitant until we're able to get in front of the regional director to offer too much information, but we will certainly, certainly have my commitment to reach out to Cynthia and get something scheduled as soon as possible after the 7th.
Okay. All right. Can't blame a guy for trying. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We look forward to getting all the design information updates as well as the cost estimate. So. Okay. All right. Moving on. Are we okay?
Priest Lake Dam is next.
Priest Lake Dam outlet.
Yeah, there you go. Short.
Okay.
Chairman Raybould, members of the board, Director Weaver, thanks again for having me here. What I'd like to do is bring up two resolutions, two funding resolutions. The first one is for the outlet dam operators, and the second one will be to fund ongoing litigation in the Strider matter. So just a quick reminder of what the operation or what the contract with the operators does for us. Funds the operator salaries, some incidental expenses as well. One thing that comes up frequently is one of the operators brings out a snow blower and we pay for the gas for the snow blower and things like that. They're generally pretty small expenses that we pay. We've had a tough time finding qualified people. I think you've seen what the environment looks like up there. There's not a lot of people up there who can do the job. Had a tough time finding them. The Division of Purchasing gave us an exemption from competitive bidding for each one of those positions as they come up. The exemption lasts for 5 years, up to a total amount of $150,000. And it does require that the contracts be renewed in 1 year increments. So what we're going to be asking you for in the resolution is a total of $150,000 over 5 years. and signature authority for the executive manager to sign contracts over that period of time, so we don't need to be coming back to you every time one of that contracts is here. Incidentally, that would be from the water management. I'm sorry, it's from the revolving development, yeah, wrong account, from the RDA.
Okay.
Questions?
One question, Mr. Chairman, Mike, what's the salary, is it pretty, standard for what you hire somebody for up there to operate the dam?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Van Stone, the amount that we've got is a little bit different for the two operators contractor. It's done on an hourly basis, and it is what we've been able to go out and we advertise, and it's what we've been able to get the folks for. So it's in the $20 plus range per hour.
So they get like 40-hour week, or probably less than that?
No, it's as needed. They do check the dam, as I think you've seen. They do come by and check it every week. I'm sorry, every day. They come by and they check it. They look for detritus and logs and any damage that might be there. So it gets checked every day in addition to whatever. So that usually winds up being about an hour a day for one or the other option. And then above and beyond that, they whatever it takes to maintain the dam, maybe during some periods of time, it'll be 10 hours a week. So overall, it's been running around 20,000 a year, between the two of them, 20 to 30,000 a year.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve this maintenance contract agreement.
Second.
Please state.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. Jennifer, please.
Mr. Barker.
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Aye.
Mr. McMahon.
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Next up.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the second funding request that we're asking for, the second funding resolution, is for $280,000. That was the estimate that we came up with for the next 6 months to fund litigation with using Kirk McConkie in the Strider matter. That would come out of the water management. I think if you've got any questions for me, I don't know how many of them I can answer, but I'll answer anything that might.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve this resolution.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. Jennifer?
Mr. Barker.
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Aye.
Mr. McMahon.
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay,
Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, regional water sustainability project list update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You'll be asked here in a second to consider a resolution a recommendation from the Finance Committee to add a project to the Regional Water Sustainability Priority List. As you'll recall, the Upper Payette Storage Association presented a project to the board's storage committee on May 6th. That proposal involves the acquisition of uncontracted storage space, uncontracted storage water from the Bureau to help meet water supply needs in the Payette Basin. The storage committee recommended the Finance Committee consider this project for addition to the Regional Water Sustainability Priority List. The Finance Committee met on May 13th and did make that recommendation to add this project to the Regional Water Sustainability Priority List. I would note here that we have a couple representatives online, Ron Shurtleff and Norm Semenko, that could speak to this if there are any questions. And with that, I would draw your attention to the resolution in your materials to add this project to the board's sustainability list.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt a resolution to add the Upper Payette Basin Storage Project to the Regional Water Sustainability Priority List.
Okay, we have a second.
I second.
Okay, do the proponents from Payette Basin have any comments before we vote?
No, sir. We look forward to working with you and the Bureau on this. Thank you.
Okay, all right, I'll proceed to vote. Jennifer?
Mr. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs,
Aye.
Mr. McMahon,
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead,
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone,
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we're moving on to loan programs.
Okay, Justin Ferguson will do this by Zoom.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Good to see you. Just two items for your consideration this morning. The first is a loan for the Farmers Land and Irrigation Company. They were established back in 1890. They service about 4,300 acres across 20 miles of canals. They're looking for a loan for $185,333 to work on their existing check structure out in Soda Springs. It's built a while back. It causes some upstream issues. They're looking to replace the headgate with something that lays flatter, that'll let more water pass in the summer and be a little easier to maintain. Looking at their financials, they have assured us that they'll pass a resolution to cover the annual payment. Right now, because they're a nonprofit, they don't have the balance yet, but working with that, once we have the resolution, we'll be in good shape. They've also offered their water rights as security for the loan, and then the diversion works, the reservoir dam, and a couple of parcels as well. So looking at the overall picture, it looks like they meet the criteria and there's no major concerns. One thing I did want to bring to your attention, and I'll share my screen really quick, were two additional conditions that we've rolled into the resolution. So starting on line 30, now therefore it be resolved that we approve a loan for $185,333. The interest rate currently is 8.5%, and they've requested a 15-year repayment term. The two additional conditions are items 4 and 5, lines 42 and 44, that the board reserves the opportunity to review the proposal at any time prior to the execution of the contract, and that the company shall be under contract within 60 days of the date of this resolution, unless otherwise approved. Unless something comes up, then we can run it back past you. But past that, we do have representatives from Farmers Land. It looks like I've got Ben Sandberg, Wade Lorenshaw, and Eric Simonson. If there are any questions, otherwise, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for just Mark?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the resolution to Farmers Land loan.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do any of the representatives have any comments, or are you good to go? Must be good to go.
There we go.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Is the 60 days from the date of the resolution realistic for the department?
I believe so. We have a template that I've worked on with Miss Carter, and I believe 60 days is doable. It's kind of it's a goal, it's a target that I'd like to hit to keep things moving quickly. And if not, we can adjust it at the next meeting or as we move forward.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. Jennifer, please.
Mr. Barker.
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Aye.
Mr. McMahon.
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Chairman Raybould.
Aye. Motion carries. Next one.
The second one for your consideration is just an extension of an existing loan. About a year ago, the Boise City Canal Company came to us for a loan of $200,000 to work on their existing canal. They wanted to drop the height of the canal so that they were able to catch water more often in the summer. Right now, based on the height, the water's there, but they can't make it quite into the canal. After the approval of that loan, they were then approved for an aging infrastructure grant. And so in an effort to keep costs down to their shareholders, they've opted to try and exhaust all the grant funds before they start dipping into the loan. We know that they'll need the loan. We just don't know how much yet. We're just looking for an extension through December of 25 while they get everything finished. And by then we should start seeing some invoices and they should be just about done. And I was
Okay.
just looking to see, it doesn't look like I have a representative online. I think he trusts me not to burn the house down, but if there are questions, I'd be happy to ask him.
Any questions on this resolution? Okay, so when you say they're gonna exhaust the aging infrastructure, they have to draw on this loan to match that as they go, don't they?
So their plan is they've got the 1/3 match of this, and they're using that knowing that we're gonna have to come back and clear it all out with the rest of the loan.
Okay, okay. We're okay. All right, we have a resolution before us.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept this resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
And we need a roll call, probably.
To be safe.
Let's do a roll call.
Mr. Barker,
I'd like to ask our council a question. I pay $35 a year to the Boise City Canal Company for water from my daughter's house. Am I allowed to vote on this?
do you think that creates a conflict?
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. So I made that statement. I think you're okay with that.
Okay, well, I just wanted to disclose.
Attorney tells you it's all.
Aye.
Ms. Cole-Hansen,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Aye.
Mr. McMahon.
Aye.
Mr. Olmstead.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
And Chairman Raybould.
Aye, motion carries. And if you don't really want to make those payments on behalf of your daughter anymore, maybe you have an excuse now.
How much water do you get for $35? All you can pump. Onto
Onto your.
onto a.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right.
Jason.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, okay, we're just gonna push through probably.
You want to.
Okay, director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I'm good. I got my hoodie today. I do apologize for forgetting my sport coat on my bed here.
Inner Fetterman.
Set a new standard here.
Well, I appreciate others who maybe are meeting me at my level of formality. I thought I'd give an update here, starting with some issues in northern Idaho, since we are here in northern Idaho. And, you know, I think the days in the department of our northern regional office in Coeur d'Alene being a sleepy little backwater with issues that didn't make it down to the capital city or long in the rearview mirror. We're, 2 decades into adjudicating in the northern Idaho area, and that has brought with it a lot of activity in many of our other processes. And of course, it's a very rapidly growing area, which also brings increases in business. And one of the issues that I've been confronted with here in the last couple of days with some anxiousness on the part of water users, legislators, and perhaps even the governor's office's current operations and conditions at Albany Dam. They have recently inspected the gates on Albany Dam, of which there are 10 very large metal gates, and found concern over the structural integrity of those gates. And the concern was such that they removed the gate that they had inspected and found the concerns. They did have one redundant gate on site, so they replaced it. But they've modified their operations in such a way that they will only operate those gates in a fully open or fully closed orientation. And I think they are very concerned about the ability to manage flood control operations through that system right now. And it has resulted in changes to the typical operation. And I know water users right now would like to see the lake level contents in Lake Pond be higher than they are in anticipation of the upcoming recreation season. And there's certainly a lot
angst that lake levels will not be at the recreational lake levels when anticipated and as has recently historically been the case. I will say that the Army Corps has put a target lake level elevation that they want to reach by Memorial Day and by June 30th. And if they do reach those target operation levels, then they will more or less be tracking with what I would consider to be the 30-year median of lake levels. But that assumes that they're going to get there. And right now they are significantly behind in lake level elevations for that median and in comparison to typical water supply years. Perhaps of greater concern is what will be the solution here ultimately that is required to operate that dam in a safe way. How will that affect operations in the near term? And I don't mean this season, but I mean in the next 5 seasons as they work through that issue. What impact will that have on their ability to meet recreational pool levels? And I think we have board member Van Stone here, and he probably could speak better, but the recreational industry is a significant one to this area, and there is significant concern right now being expressed that this could have an economic impact this year and in future years while this issue gets navigated. So no solutions now. What I think my department can do is commit to get up to speed on the flood control operations in Albany and the operations that the Army Corps is forecasting in this season and in upcoming seasons, and hope to bring transparency and perhaps another set of technical eyes to those decision makings. But what I caution some legislators and others is that it's probably not going to be the case that we would ever put ourselves in the position of questioning or suggesting alternative operations to the Army Corps of Engineers, just because of their technical expertise, history operating the dam, and authority over that. But hopefully we can bring transparency and an evaluation of their process to the water user community here. And so I did commit to Representative Souter and perhaps soon to be Senator Jim Woodward that we would reach out to the Army Corps and understand those operations and provide that information to the public. There was some presentation yesterday on the Kootenai River adjudication, which we hope to be commencing here in the next year or two, that we now have legal authorization for, and just some questions concerning that shared boundary with Canada. I thought I might just speak to that briefly because this has been an issue that we've heard a lot from the public as we've been doing outreach both in this basin and Bonner County and in Bounty County. And you know, the Kootenai adjudication from a legal standpoint, we don't think the border with Canada presents any uncertainties. Idaho has sovereignty and authority to allocate the water resources within its states, and we can only allocate those elements of water rights that exist in this state. And this is very comparable, as was mentioned yesterday, to the adjudication processes that have occurred on boundaries with Wyoming and Utah and Oregon, where we define those elements on the water right that are in Idaho, reside in Idaho. So the other question is, what are the implications of the Columbia River Treaty? And I went back and looked at some notes last night, and the existing treaty explicitly reserves authority over the allocation of water to the states. So that's not a question in the existing treaty. And of course, we are going through a multi-year treaty negotiation process right now. And the issues that have been identified in that process include let me find myself in my notes here. Guaranteed versus called upon flood control space in Canada reservoirs. The quote unquote Canadian entitlement, or that requirement that's historically existed for the U.S. to pay for flood control operations and power generation in Canada. And then the last issue is a reconsideration of eco-function as a management guidance principle in the Columbia River Basin. And what's absent there is any question of water allocation as an established issue. So I think all of this is to say that smarter legal minds than mine have said that they don't really see how the treaty would have a direct interference or applicability to the adjudication. So, and again, I know that's a concern. Just wanted to speak to that a little bit. A week and a half ago, I spent a day in the Potlatch River Basin, and that was one of the basins in Idaho that I perhaps that is the basin I was least familiar with. I've not been in that basin other than to drive through on the highway. And what's interesting is you see the very green coniferous forest, you see the dryland farming, and then we would drop into a drainage and we would talk about Big Meadow Creek or Bear Creek, and we would be talking about a half a CFS or 1.5 CFS. And you heard presentations by Fish and Game X-Day, where they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars for steelhead connectivity in that area. And they'd like to have some certainty that those improvements will be protected. And that water use that occurs under authorized water rights in that basin will be enforced. And so one of the questions that came up as we sat on the crest of Spring Valley Reservoir is, how quickly can the water department create a water district here and ensure that if we raise this reservoir, the storage water that comes with that will be delivered to the area and the system where it needs to go. And then recently some filings came into the department saying that they were ready for priority administration on the Chilco Lake. It's a lake and a small tributary just north of Hayden Lake. And there's some concern over development that's occurring there and ensuring that the senior water users get their water there. And of course, there have been a few other instances of requests for water districts. So, you know, with the increase in population, with the adjudication, I think we're going to start to see more and more requests for administration and regulation in Northern Idaho. And so, not that we needed any further evidence of it, but Northern Idaho has caught up to Southern Idaho, perhaps, in the need to understand and manage our resources, but they are different issues. And so, you know, that's definitely a change in the department. And I was happy to hear Michelle Richmond, our regional manager, speak yesterday. I thought she did a great job. I think she's bringing some leadership and stability to our regional manager position that's been needed. So I think we've got the right person there to kind of spearhead and be the mouthpiece for the department in some of these issues. Quickly, Mountain Home Air Force Base water right application. So the board has an application now in for permit for water diversions from the Snake River during the non-irrigation season. And certainly there are people in the room that understand this issue better than I do. But there are existing rights that are going to be that have been purchased from Simplot that will be used to meet water needs of the Mountain Home Air Force Base during the irrigation season. And then there's an application for permit for the non-irrigation season. And that application for permit has been protested. And I don't remember all of the protestants. We had 3: Idaho Power Company, City of Hayden, Elmore County. And so then I recently received some timelines from planning staff who are working on that and kind of realized that we're going to need that water soon. And yet the contested case proceedings are currently assigned to informal proceedings. I'm not sure what the pace of those informal proceedings have been, but I'm concerned that if we don't get going on that process, we're not going to have a water right permitted in time. And I know that that's really something that we can't afford. So I've asked staff to look into that and put together timelines and to expedite that. And it might mean that we need to bring the informal proceedings to conclusion now and move on to contested case proceedings. And I've been thinking about a hearing officer for that. So having no understanding of where those informal proceedings are, and if we're close or not. If we're not, then we need to get going with that contested case proceeding so that we can meet the project deadlines.
Mr. Spearman?
Yeah.
Matt, from my recollection, which is sketchy at best, as a legislator, there was a timeline on the Simplot water right that we had to have it executed by, or we lost that option. Is we in jeopardy on that, or is that come to pass and come and go?
Ryan has that circled on his calendar.
Yeah, I can field that question for the director. That's a February 2026 date. So everything that all the information I've gotten from the team working on this project indicates that all the infrastructure will be in place well before that date and be able to deliver water to the base and meet the terms under the timeline in that purchase agreement with Simplot.
Thank you. I knew it was out there. I thought it was before 2026. Back in the days when we first started talking about this and worrying about money. But I hope to be around to see that water get developed.
Initially, there was an earlier date, but we were able to build an extension to that timeline.
good discussion, and certainly the amount of effort and resources that have gone into this have been significant over almost my entire tenure working with the board. So we're getting very close. It's exciting, and we just need to make sure that we hit these milestones. Quickly on our CEC plan has been submitted to DHR. This is our comprehensive employee compensation plan. This will give them employees raises for the upcoming fiscal year. And DHR has approved it. They've approved it while grumbling and telling us that we haven't followed all of the rules, and we're perhaps making some people uncomfortable. And really, department, you only have to worry about the tough questions you might get in front of the legislature next year, because we haven't strictly adhered to the 1% COLA and the 2% limit on CEC. But nevertheless, they've grudgingly bought off on it. I think we're going to get DFM to buy off on it here soon and be able to implement that on the time at the end of this fiscal year. And we should be finalizing our bonus recommendations for the year and submitting that to DHR. And because we do have significant salary savings, both one time and ongoing, this is going to be, hopefully, if approved, a pretty significant round of bonuses for staff, both retention bonuses going out to employees that have critical roles and would be very detrimental to us to lose at the organization. Retention bonuses focused on the water resource agent class. We have about a quarter to a third of our organization is in that water resource agent job classification. Career track, I'll say there's actually 4 different job classes in that. And then merit-based bonuses, we hope to maximize that. At your rule, we can issue 20% of our organization merit-based bonuses. So, the good news, I guess, is we have salary savings, we can fund these. The bad news is perhaps we could have done more with ongoing salary increases had we had more flexibility in the guidance that's been provided by the governor's office and the legislature. But all in all, given this last legislative session, given where we were perhaps 6 weeks ago, I'm happy with the plan that we have. We've pushed back, we've got more than perhaps people are comfortable with. So as a director, as a new director, I can feel like I did everything I could, and that's my CEC for our agency. And then we do have a deadline for legislation submittals to the governor's office on June 30th. I've met with Brian and Shelley Keene, the other deputy director, and we don't anticipate needing any legislation within the agency, which I'm happy for, because bringing agency legislation this last session was very difficult and different from how it had been in years past, the process. If we do have legislation that comes up to the water users or perhaps to the Idaho Groundwater Association, we can still support that and get good outcomes, but not be the entity that's bringing that legislation. But that's not to say that there might not be legislation that this board wants to consider. Just know that the deadline for that is June 30th to get legislative ideas into the governor's office. Otherwise, we have to wait another year. Both, I think, the board and the department, certainly the department. So perhaps saving the most difficult issue for last, and that's just an update on where we are with the delivery call proceedings on the Eastern Snake Plain. IGWA is an entity that has long represented a disparate group of groundwater districts on the Eastern Snake Plain, and it has organized and coordinated the efforts of those groundwater districts, and it has prepared and submitted and carried out mitigation plans and activities for as an umbrella organization over those groundwater districts. And IGWA's role on the Eastern Snake Plain has been changing pretty dramatically in the last couple of years as groundwater districts have found less common ground and have worked more independently. And this year, we've seen a lot of independent groundwater district filings and a lot of different arguments coming from groundwater districts as to the limits and applicability of existing mitigation plans and other activities that from my perspective aren't set forth in an approved mitigation plan. And so I think the proceedings have been disorganized. By my count, we're well past 10 legal filings that have been filed and that I've had to or will be responding to since the April as applied order in that second week of April. And just as we look forward over the next week or two, I hope to dispose of all of the pending filings as quickly as possible. I hope to rule on the applicability of the 2 existing mitigation plans, and there continues to be dispute both on the part of individual groundwater districts, IGWA, and the Surface Water Coalition as to what should qualify for approved activities under those plans. And there's great disagreement, as you might imagine, amongst the parties on that issue. And hope to have a curtailment order out next week. And that means it's going to be another working weekend for myself and our legal staff. We've had many of those. I know some people feel like we're moving slowly, but I can promise people that we are reviewing and evaluating these arguments and responding to them as quickly as we can. We don't have an attorney as the director. Perhaps you explore more legal options than you might otherwise. But I think we're issuing the best decisions that the department can. And certainly I think we understand the limitations of mitigating under approved plan in a way that most groundwater users don't. And certainly we're hypersensitive to the reprimands that we've received from district court and Supreme Court in the past surrounding these proceedings. As I said, hopefully there will be a number of orders going out next week, one of which will be a curtailment order. And I'm very anxious to have delayed issuance of that curtailment order to this point. Typically, historically, we issue an as-applied order determining an injury in the first or second week of April, and a curtailment order goes out in the first or second week of May. And we're certainly behind that schedule this year. And last night I was looking through emails and I received one. And I just want to read from it. I don't want to identify who it is, but I think it highlights the challenges that we're dealing with here. And this person says, I'm a 38-year-old farmer from Blackfoot facing the potential curtailment as defined in your final order. My family runs approximately 2,000 acres of farmland that relies solely on groundwater. If this order goes through as outlined, it would shut off roughly 70% of my acres for which all inputs have been paid for this season through my bank operating note. This order will be the nail in the coffin of my family's legacy. So these are the types of communications that you get when you're dealing with these curtailments, and it is difficult. It is frustrating that this person, given the landscape and the uncertainty of where we are, has invested in their farm, because I would think a reasonable person wouldn't have thought that they had the security and the protection under a mitigation plan. And so it is difficult. I think I am required by law to issue these curtailment orders as fast as I can. I'm trying to do that. And I think we still have some challenging weeks ahead of us. And so that's probably as much as I'm comfortable speaking to right now. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments unless there's questions from the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question. Not about the curtailments, but who owns Albany Dam?
I believe the Army Corps of Engineers owns it.
Okay,
The board, yeah.
okay. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was hoping to give Matt an opportunity to talk about something that's a lot easier to solve, and can you comment on where things are in updating the page 37 groundwater plan?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman.
That's an easy one.
Mr. Parker, what, I don't know if I call it easier, right? There's a spectrum. I believe that advisory committee met last week, and they've been meeting regularly, and they identified a number of work objectives that they want to explore through committees. And in my conversation with Deputy Director Shelley Keene earlier this week, he's hoping that they'll have a plan ready to resubmit to me for consideration in that October, November time period. He did make the comment to me that when we adopted the last plan 3 years ago, that at the end of that process, people were pretty worn out and they were just ready to have a plan to be submitted. And he said that's not the case right now. There's a lot of energy to explore, pieces of the plan that perhaps didn't get in there in the last plan that was adopted, and that had a 3-year lifespan associated with it. And then also reconsidering some of the other elements of the existing plan. So he said there's a lot of energy and engagement right now, and we're trying to be responsive in identifying staff that can support those work groups, but hopefully on target to have a plan ready to consider and adopt at the end of this calendar year.
Because, Mr. Chairman, Matt, the existing plan expires, right, at the end of this year.
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Barker, that's correct.
Well, based on how we do things on the FBA, I don't know what you're worried about. And any other questions for, right?
Not a question, but a comment on the Basin 37. I've been attending as an advisory on the SEA, for instance, committee, and I told them that there will be a legislative tour in August in Basin 37 there. Because there was, there's been some opposition on, we got to get 7 out of the 9 votes, I think, to fund a project on the SEA, and we've done a couple in the lower valley and none in the upper valley, and I think we've got one will be approved for the upper valley, but that was wrestled with pretty hard at this last meeting, and if you're going to do conservation, you've got to do it everywhere. You can't do it. So most of them are working together. There's always a little bit of conflict, but I think Matt's right. I mean, it's definitely working together a lot more than the ESPA is.
Not a high bar.
Well, we thank you for your efforts. None of these decisions are easy, and pretty hard to make everybody happy all at the same time when we're working with a limited resource. So we appreciate having you on board.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I don't know, maybe this is a Brian question. Basin 37, our funding ends this year too, right? That's correct. And so Brian, the chief hasn't asked us for money yet, have they?
The SEA committee is going to meet again, I think, pretty soon and discuss what's the future of the SEA, I guess. But yeah, I think they're going to want more money. But SEA is going to fall apart if they don't.
Right.
If we approve projects in the Richfield Canal, we don't approve projects in the Bellevue Canal. So it's got to. I think it's going to happen, and then it'll look like there'll be a clear path forward. Yeah, we can. We can use more money. We can show the legislators that we're trying to solve some issues.
Well, and ongoing funding will probably be contingent on how the county want to manage it. Well,
right.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Non-action items. Dale.
I have none. I thank everybody coming to North Idaho. Well, we got the water.
Yeah.
Give you some water.
Well, we got sunshine today. We got it all.
Yeah.
So
in regard to what Matt said about Albany Falls Dam, we will have an informational meeting Thursday. I plan to attend that. The resort owners, the people that live along the lake, a lot of them have fixed docks. So they're concerned that water level don't get up. The recreation season starts, so Memorial Day after, so. I'll try to keep track of that, and I know Molly, the Lake Commission is on keep track of that too. They got some serious issues down there evidently, and I hope they can resolve it in a timely fashion, I guess.
okay, right.
The only thing I have, Mr. Chairman, I think the department now has the spring measurements on the Sentinel wells, or those or whatever. Because I get people asking me all the time, we're doing some good, and it looks like we got an uptick, so
9/10.
you get that sent around. I think you get it. People should see it.
Yeah, is that ready for prime time? Draft one once from my own.
It can be sent out, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Dean.
Nothing.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just looking forward to a finance committee meeting in June.
Okay, well, we'll be ready for one.
We'll reclamation.
I just like to thank the director and staff for supporting the 37 progress.
Mark?
I have nothing other than, I think our next meeting is in Silver Spring. We look forward to seeing you all down there, so. We'll try to have, hot, dry weather. We don't have to try very hard that time.
I'm looking forward to seeing the hole in the wall gang down there.
Oh,
I have.
Okay, all right, I think that concludes our meeting. Brian, next meeting?
Next meeting, Mr. Chairman, set for July 25 and 26 in Soda Springs, will be at the Cobblestone Inn in Soda Springs. And we are currently working on an agenda, field trip, and everything else to go along with that meeting, so we will all see you there. As Joanne mentioned, we will need at least one committee meeting, at least one finance committee meeting between now and then. And undoubtedly another couple committee meetings will show up as well.
Finance will be after June 7th.
Yes.
After June 7th,
We
but
think June 7th, right?
we will probably need it before July for various reasons, so.
Yeah, I got one question for Mike. The Cobblestone Inn, is that off I-15? I'm in new territory.
so what's that?
We'll have to draw you back. You're gonna be way off by 15.
Time out. You take exit 47, I think it is, off I-15. And I would bet that it's 30 miles to the east, to the east on Highway 30.
Yes.
It's on Highway 30. And I'm guessing on the mileage, because it's 30, it might be 34 miles, but it's 39 miles to my house and it's probably 4 miles closer to my house.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it's
What-
right
what-
on the
what-
outskirts of Soda Springs.
It's about a short hour from Pocatello.
South, over down.
South and east.
So you go south through Lincoln and after you come to the McMahon exit and you get off there and you're Highway 30.
Highway 30.
You get on Highway 30, it takes you right to Soda Springs.
Lots of truck traffic.
But it's a good road.
Yeah, oh, yeah, good highway.
Yeah.
I think, have we been there, Soda Springs?
We've been to Montpelier, which.
Montpelier.
You have to go through Soda Springs to get the bump here.
Yeah, this will be close.
Okay,
We'll make sure you get them out.
okay.
Chairman, I believe we adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?